this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess.net. We are doing a new video series every Monday. This is the first one and hopefully you like it. Today's topic, it's interesting. Who's better, Magnus Carlsen or Garry Kasparov? I could give the easy answer and say it is not fair to compare, they are from different times, but if you study deeply, you could come to that conclusion they are both great. And I say this because I had the chance to know both players. I'll explain. When I started playing chess, it was at the age of 10, and this was by the year 2000. Around that time, Garry was retiring already, and I had the chance of analyzing most of his games. I realized he was used to crush his competition, and we are talking about strong field. And when I was like 13, I had the chance to play Magnus in a World Championship under 14, and I was lucky to draw him. And since then, I saw how Magnus improved his chess till he got to the top of the chess rating list, to #1 world champion. So I could say I know both players. I had the chance of analyzing his games. And as I said, I had the chance to see Magnus improve his game since he was a young kid and till he was a world champion. And my conclusion would be they are both great players. That's all I can say. I don't think Magnus is better than Garry or Garry is better than Magnus. I would say they are both the best chess players of all times because they are both complete. And what we are going to do in this video, this is the best we can do, is learn from these great players. And we have a lot of nice games to analyze. I chose, in my opinion, the best positions we can discuss. And most of you guys, you probably know this position already. This is Kasparov against Topalov from, we can see, 1999. And after king a7, Kasparov decides to play rook e1, and black plays d4. This position, it looks like black is already advancing a lot. We know his king is a bit open. It is fair to say those pawns are too advanced. And here Kasparov plays knight to d5. We don't have to calculate much to play this move. We want to open that position because his king is not safe. So knight b takes e5. If black takes with the other knight, we take. And after queen d6, we have queen takes f7 check. We have a huge advantage. We see rook d7 is not even possible. So Topalov decides to play knight b takes e5. Pawn takes. And queen d6. If black manages to trade queens off, then he has very good chances because, as you see, d5 is almost falling. Those pawns are too advanced. He's likely to play king b6, and this knight is also at risk. And here comes one of the greatest moves I ever seen. Rook takes d4. A bomb and a move that's probably winning. Let's try to understand why rook takes d4. The first move we look at in this position is queen takes e6, rook takes, rook e7 check. But then king b6, and as we know this knight is not doing great here. And if e4, knight takes d5. Rook is hanging, knight c3. We can probably resign here. So trading queens off is not a good idea. Another move we can consider is knight c6 check, and after bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes f4, and again, despite having this rook e7, I don't like the resulting position. My pawns are weak. He can play something like this. He can trade a lot of pieces off, and I don't know, I feel I'm losing here as white already. I'm not optimistic about my chances in that line. My face probably tells everything. So rook takes d4 is a move that opens that position and keeps the initiative. Here Topalov decides to play c takes d4, accepting the gift. After some deep analysis, we realize king b6 is a better try, and now everything is hanging. And I think the key was, if bishop takes d5, Kasparov was ready to play this move, which is quite unexpected. Queen takes f4, rook takes d8. Now the queen is hanging, so is the rook, but the key is we'll have some mating threats. Queen h6, check, king here, and b4. No matter what black plays, we'll have rook b7 and its mate. So once more, rook takes d4. He takes, and here you probably say, okay, queen takes d4 check. But Kasparov plays rook e7. What an amazing move. Deviating the queen from d6, and probably we take on d4 later. What if we take now? Queen takes d4, he plays queen b6, rook e7, this looks very good for us. He plays knight d7, and after this he plays rook takes d5, and believe it or not, he's winning. He's got more material, his king is still safe, and I don't see any other move. I mean, after rook takes c7, if we don't take on h8, we lose more material. So rook takes d4, once more this move is crushing, c takes, and rook e7. The combination of rook takes e4 plus rook e7 is one of the most amazing tactics I ever seen. He plays king b6. If queen takes e7, queen takes d4, now we understand why rook e7, there's no queen b6. And after this, we have queen b6 and bishop b7, knight c6. We take the queen on e7. So he decides to play king b6, king b8 is possible as well, but queen takes d4, we have this mating threat. This might transpose actually. So he decides to play king b6, queen takes d4 check, king takes a5. No other move, queen c5 runs into this, and b4. So king takes a5, b4 check, king a4, and queen c3. We're about to mate that king on a4. We won't find a position like this often at the elite level. And apart from queen c3, rook a7 was also possible. We see that black is in some kind of zugzwang. But queen c3, queen takes c5. If bishop takes, we have the simple king b2 and then queen b3 next. I mean, this would be an awesome finish. We mate the king in the corner. He takes with the queen, and this is tricky, because if we play king b2 now, trying to play queen b3, he plays queen d4, and we lose. There's no way to stop the queen trade. So Garry plays rook a7, bishop b7, rook takes, and queen c4. It is fair to say black is trying his best, and it's not easy to defend in a situation like this when your king is on a4. According to the analysis, rook h e8 was a better try, and after rook b6, play something like rook a8. However, black still is in a 6-1 situation, and after bishop f1, he's likely to lose sooner or later. Let's not forget the practice point of view. Here we are talking about computer moves for black. When you're playing a real game, and you have the king on a4, it's almost impossible to play the best moves. He plays queen c4. This makes a lot of sense. He wants to trade queens off in order to defend. We take, king takes a3. If rook d1, we have king b2, and he runs out of checks. So king takes a3. And after king takes e4, another great move by Garry. I remember analyzing this position when I was a kid, and I was surprised by this move. c3 check. It is the best move because we continue with checks, therefore we don't lose the initiative. And it's also funny because black is pretty close to mating us, so we have to be careful. c3 check, king takes, king b3, queen a2. This is not likely to help after king d3. First we have this check, bishop f1, and also rook e7 is winning. He is on a complete mating net here. So king takes c3, queen a1 check, king d2, king b4, we have this move. This should be winning, and king c5, rook c7. So queen a1, king d2. Here, king d1. We see that king journey from a7 up to d1. And another great move by Garry, bishop f1. Amazing move. We don't have checks, but we deviate the queen from defense. There's nothing he can do. I mean, if he takes, we play queen c2 and rook e7. In the meantime, he doesn't have any checks, and he plays rook d2. And here another great move by Garry, rook to d7. What an amazing move. A lot of deviations, and black can already resign here. He takes on d7. We take the queen, of course. We have this queen c1 threat. B takes. But of course, yeah, taking the rook is much, much better. Rook d3. Well, black may have some chances, maybe, but they are too soft, in my opinion. If rook b7, the king goes to the corner, but we play queen d4, stopping the mate. We take care of this pawn, and also queen e4 check. This is devastating. So rook d3, queen a8. This is something I see a lot in Kasparov's games. His technique was so perfect, not allowing any counterplay by his opponents. Queen a4, king e1. If king d2, we have queen c2, and then the king has to go up. So king e1, f4, f5. We are absolutely winning here. Queen g1 is coming next, and black simply resigns. A great game by Garry. Probably one of his greatest games. Starting with rook takes d4. If you want to see the entire game, you can find it on any database. It was a Pirc defense, and I decided to start from this position because it's a matter of time, and I wanted to see fireworks from the beginning. Rook takes e4 and rook e7, one of the greatest maneuvers I ever seen. So now we'll continue analyzing a game from Magnus Carlsen. And the game we're going to discuss is Carlsen against Ibaryev from 2004. I think this game was played in Olympiad, and by this time I was 14, so was Magnus, and I was analyzing his games and I said, who's this guy? I mean, he's very powerful. And I was impressed by this game. Let's see, he was white. We have a Nimzo here after bishop b4. In a lot of videos we discuss knight f3, and I always tell b6, queen's Indian is a possibility, so is the Bogo Indian. And after d5, black has a queen's gambit declined. But here Magnus plays with knight to c3. We have the Nimzo with bishop b4. White has a lot of possibilities here. e3, the Rubinstein variation, knight f3. He can play with bishop c5. But against the Nimzo, where black tries breaking our pawn chain, I like playing the Capablanca variation with queen c2. It makes a lot of sense to win his bishop pair and at the same time protect our pawn structure. Here castling is the main move for black, but he plays c5, which is another interesting line. D takes e5, bishop takes, knight f3, and queen b6. This move, queen b6, looks like a mistake because he's moving the queen early in the opening. However, it has a point, and in order to understand queen b6, we need to see, for instance, this move. After a move like this, I can play, say, bishop f4, bishop c5, and I'll continue with e3. Then I'll have the bishop outside the pawn chain. When he plays queen b6, he is basically forcing us to play e3. Then the queen can happily go back to c7 or d8, but black makes sure our bishop stays inside the pawn chain on c1. That is why he plays queen b6. And we have to play e3 because e4 is dubious in view of knight c4. And the pressure on f2 is basically too much. So Magnus plays e3, black goes back to c7, and we'll see he'll try playing hedgehog setup. This makes sense, and Magnus plays the simple b3. This is something I see a lot in Magnus, his games. Instead of going for sharp lines like a3, maybe b4, or developing with bishop d3, bishop e2, he likes playing simple ideas in the opening. Of course b3 is very good because we are trying to play bishop b2 and we already fixed the situation of bishop c1. And another thing I see in Magnus' games is that he tries to overplay his opponents in the middle game or end games. It's like the opening, he just tries getting a good position, and from that good position onwards, he shows his best chess. So b3, b6, okay, black tries doing the same thing on that diagonal, bishop b2, bishop to b7, and here I would, without thinking much, I would go bishop e2. Then, depending on what he plays, I'll decide whether to castle short or long. I think both have their merits. But Magnus plays knight to b5, attacking the queen already, and also targeting the d6 square. I like this move because we are also a bit committed to queenside castling. I mean, if we play knight b5, we are taking the initiative, and after this move, if we have the chance to play something like knight d6, we'll take his powerful bishop on c5. If we keep a dark square's bishop, we can also try attacking on the king side. For instance, if a6, I wouldn't think twice, I would just play knight d6. Bishop takes, rook takes, and I'll continue my development. I think this bishop b2 is definitely too powerful, and having kings on opposite sides, I would also start pushing my pawns. I believe I have a clear advantage here as white. So black decides to castle, and here comes another great move by Magnus. We can simply develop our bishop, that's true. We can consider a move like knight d6, trying to win his bishop pair. There's always time for a safe move like king b1, but here we try to continue with our initiative. And when you have the initiative, you don't have to let it go, because then you'll give your opponent time to defend and finish his development. So, is there any threats to create here? I think there is. We can play this knight c5. We have a simple threat, bishop takes, knight followed by queen takes h7 mate. And what I like about this move is that we invite black to weaken his position. For instance, if he plays a move like c6, this looks terrible because we can play queen c3, h4, h5, and even if he plays bishop e7, we can play knight d6. He's full of holes, and there's no way this is good for black. So c6 is a clear mistake, so is h6. Well, we simply take, and we mate him on h7, so h6 is not possible. Black here, he plays the best defense, rook e8, and Magnus doesn't take on f6. That's interesting. He plays h4. Can we take on f6? I think we can. Queen takes. We can grab the h7 pawn, king f8. Here he hides his king on e7, and the issue for us is bishop b2 is gone, and we are giving black a lot of counterplay on dark squares. It is true that we win a pawn, but material is not as important as the initiative, and we know bishop b2 is worth gold in this position. We are going to keep bishop b2, and we'll leave this bishop takes f6 for a better spot. We play h4, we continue attacking. I like h4 because even if he plays h6 and h takes c5, I open the h-file and I still have a strong attack. So black decides to play e5. I like this sequence. I'm happy to get his dark square's bishop, rook takes d6, h6, and here we have an interesting puzzle. If you haven't seen this game yet, I recommend you pause the video here for 5-10 minutes and try finding white's best continuation. It is not easy. We are not talking about a tactics puzzle yet. Just pretend you're playing white and try finding your best chance. What I'm going to do now is pause the video for 5-10 seconds and then I'll continue talking. Okay, so in this position after h6, the first move we look at is rook takes f6. I mean, it is like the obvious continuation, because if queen takes, queen h7, king f8, and, well, if we see bishop a3 check, we are tempted to play this d6, And the thing is, here I don't see any other continuation. Queen h8, king e7, he's lucky to escape. And knight e4, he can simply take on e4. And after queen takes, knight d7. Everything is protected. He's playing knight c5 next. And our attack is over. I also see we are running out of pieces, so rook takes f6. Maybe it's going to work later. The truth is, it's not a good try here. It would be if he takes the knight. But then we take, and this is another story, because after this, queen here, king f8, we have this, queen takes and rook h8. This is the first variation I should show, but yeah, he plays queen takes, f6, and he's just fine. So another move we can consider, for instance, is bishop d3. We simply develop a piece, and we know that if he takes, we can just retake, and the worst scenario we'll have a huge compensation. So this is another chance, but Magnus plays queen f5. And I like this move, because this reminds me of bishop d3. The difference is, now this is stronger because the queen is in front. And we know that if he takes, once more we have a powerful attack, he's lacking defenders, and we're probably mating him. So this is a deep move, and probably the best from the practical point of view. Here black loses on the spot. He plays a knight c6, which looks like a decent move in practice because he develops a piece, but he should have played a move like queen e7, and after rook d2 something like g6. This is not a happy decision by black because he's weakening his king side a lot. Remember, each pawn you advance, you're weakening your position. But okay, this was his best try. Now we are following an analysis by Grandmaster Golot. And after knight h5, it says rook h2. Well, he's trying to play g4, we know that. Maybe we can play it on the spot, sacrificing material. I mean, his king is way too open. Even, well, rook h2, as he says, e4, we have a lot of decent possibilities. Despite being down a piece, I feel we are crushing as white, because our initiative is too powerful. So queen f5, knight c6, and rook takes f6. Well, you're probably asking why rook takes f6 now. We had this like 1 or 2 moves ago. Now he has the knight on c6. It's different. Let's start with the simple she takes f6. We have queen h7 and mate. We know this move simply loses to pawn takes. This queen h7, this check, queen takes, and then rook h8. What else? After rook takes f6, well, he probably has to try queen takes f6, queen h7, king f8, and here we have 2 winning moves. Of course not this because of king e7 and then the queen is under attack, but in chess we have what we call in-between moves, and they are usually making a huge difference. Both bishop a3 check or knight e4 are winning. I prefer knight e4 because we attack the queen, we defend on f2, and no matter what he plays, we continue with bishop a3. And when he covers the check, we have mate. And after d6, of course, we take and we mate him next. That is why after rook takes f6, black resigns. And, well, this was a very short game, as I said in the introduction. I saw this when I was 14, so was Magnus, and he was beating at 2500 this way. I was impressed, and I knew this guy was going to be what he is today, the best player in the world. I was impressed, and like this, we can see a lot of games from Magnus. Nowadays, it is tough to see games like this because his opposition is too solid and too well prepared, but we still see Magnus making a slight difference in the middle game or end game. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this, and as I said, it is tough to compare. We are talking about two biggest names in chess, and we definitely have a lot to learn from these guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next Monday in our next video. Thank you.